Good morning, everyone. Yeah, here we are, GT Academy, and I'm Shikha Saxena. Welcome to the online panel discussion on sustainable transportation in India. I'll begin with a quick intro to who we are. So, GT Academy is a learning initiative by Green Tree Global that helps students, professionals, and faculty gain much needed skills in the sustainability and energy efficiency domain. And we incorporate the best industry practices along with academic expertise into our offerings. We also help boost the career opportunities available in this domain through our skill focused programs and placement assistance programs. Green Tree Global is a well known solutions provided in the space for the last 15 years and currently maintains a team of around 125 plus staff with engineering and architecture backgrounds with extensive experience spanning over 950 projects around the globe covering buildings, industries, mobility, and skill development. We operate domestically, but also in countries like Bangladesh, Kuwait, Nepal, South Korea, New Zealand, Vietnam, etc. So, Green Tree Global and GT Academy aspire to provide industry oriented training to the participants. The research and development that we conduct on various sustainable topics is regularly incorporated as part of the course content. We also organize faculty development programs and help them in developing sustainability oriented curriculum modules. We regularly incorporate feedback from faculty, professionals, students, industry bodies, government organizations, etc., into our work to provide the best possible knowledge and skill via trainings. Creating and promoting environmental awareness through various initiatives is one of our key principles. So now let's have the introduction about our moderator and our esteemed panelists.
Sorry, do you work with international organizations also like United Nations Environmental Program or IRENA or United Nations Development Program?
Sir, like we operate domestically and as well as countries, various countries like Bangladesh, Kuwait, Nepal, South Korea, New Zealand, Vietnam.
This is some area you can explore into.
So, as I was saying, let's have this introduction. So, for this event, the moderator for today's event is Dr. C.S. Azad. He is an associate director in policy and advisory at Green Tree Global. He did BTech from Aligarh Muslim University, MBA, PhD, certified energy auditor, 2004 first batch. He is a certified solar installation inspector, ex-Government of India electrical engineering with 3 decades experience in electrical services projects, energy audit, renewable energy, IT project management, training and academics, immediate past Secretary of Society of Energy Engineers and Energy Managers, professional body of certified energy professionals in India, and chief editor of Energy Manager Journal. And now, these are the panelists for the session. Then let me introduce them first. So, for first one will be Ms. Chaitanya Kanuri. She is an associate director in e-mobility at WRI India. She did bachelor's in architecture from Vishwasaraya National Institute of Technology, Nagpur, master's in urban policy and governance from Science Po, Paris, and currently serving as Associate Director Electric Mobility with the Sustainable Cities and Transport team at WRI India. Let's national and state level initiatives on electric mobility, e-mobility startup business models, and government partnerships across 6 states to advance EV demand and infrastructure. She also had co-authored the Niti Aayog Handbook on Charging Infrastructure Implementation. It specializes in state-level e-mobility policies, EV infrastructure planning, and startup business models in the e-mobility sector. She is known for her strategic insights into sustainable transportation, effective government partnerships, and innovative frameworks for urban e-mobility solutions. Then we would be having Mr. Karthik Atmanathan. He is a professor of practice at IIT Madras and Senior Vice President at Ashok Leyland. He did BTech in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Madras, currently serving as Senior Vice President and Business Unit Head for Electric Vehicles and e-mobility at Ashok Leyland, leading operations related to electric mobility solutions in the automotive sector. He has over 15 years of entrepreneurial experience before joining Ashok Leyland. He's a professor of practice at IIT Madras, coordinating interdisciplinary programs and leading research on advanced EV charging technologies. He's a key contributor to high power charging prototypes in collaboration with IIT Madras and the Automotive Research Association of India, focusing on improving charging speeds for EVs. He's an active participant in national panels for developing interoperable fast charging standards for India's EV ecosystem. Now, then we would be having Dr. Sunil Kumar Sharma. He is an executive director at RDSO Indian Railways. He did his Masters of Technology in Industrial Engineering from IIT Delhi. He did PhD in risk analysis and public procurement from Jadavpur University. He has over 12 years of experience in Indian Railways in maintenance management, operations, procurement services, and disaster management. He is a 1998 batch Indian Railway Service of Mechanical Engineers officer. He is an appreciated railway officer, researcher, and writer. He has also had more than 20 years of experience in various areas related to maintenance management, operations, procurement services, diplomatic management, public sector governments, human resources, and disaster management. Then we would be having Mr. Sanjeev Saxena. He is a CEO at Samarth Sustainable Solution. He did Bachelor of Engineering in Electrical Engineering from IIT Roorkee, Marine Engineering from DMET Mumbai, has more than 40 years of experience in diverse areas and currently serving as founder and CEO of Samarth Sustainable Solutions, focusing on sustainable concept design in engineering and infrastructure development since July 2023. He is a former managing director at Integrated Facility Management Services, overseeing large-scale high-rise buildings and townships, and is a former senior vice president, technical operations at DLF Home Developers Limited, leading luxury condominium developments and sustainable initiatives. He has also experience in the pharmaceutical sector with Cadila Pharmaceuticals, leading greenfield projects in India and Ethiopia. Then our last panelist would be Ms. Smarnika Hazra. She's a sustainable professional at Terry School of Advanced Studies and ex-Noida International Airport. She did MBA in Sustainable Management from Terry School of Advanced Studies. She's a former intern at Noida International Airport, skilled in sustainability reporting, focusing on ESG metrics and compliance with GRI, SASB, and TCFD standards, has expertise in materiality matrix, impact assessment, and gap analysis for ESG benchmarking, proficient in sustainable energy, circular economy, carbon markets, and climate change, experience in CSR project execution, including market research, strategy building, and value chain development. Now, I would like to invite Dr. C.S. Azad to further address the session.
Greetings of the day, and I know people from various continents are joining this webinar. To start with the topic, as we know, transport sector is responsible for 18% of total energy consumption. That is equivalent to 94 million tons of oil equivalent. And this sector in India is responsible for 142 billion tons of CO2 emission annually.
I believe Dr. C.S. Azad, you muted.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, greetings
Yes,
of the
sir.
day. Yeah, the greetings of the day. And I know people from various continents are joining this webinar. As we are aware, transport sector contributes to 18% of total energy consumption that is equivalent to 94 million tons of oil equivalent. And this is resulting in 142 million tons of carbon emissions. And out of that 142 million tons of the carbon emission, 123 are from the road the sector only. So that idea of this webinar has emerged from India's target of net zero, as well as ongoing COP29 at Baku, because transport sector and logistics will play a key role in net zero targets. And we are very happy to have the knowledgeable panel with us. And without much ado and taking much time, I invite our first panelist, Ms. Chaitanya Kanuri, who is expert in e-mobility, and she is the associate director at WRI India. Okay, now it's over to Ms. Chaitanya Kanuri, and she will explain about e-vehicles and what are the latest targets and other developments in India regarding e-vehicles.
Dr. Azad, what is your protocol for question and answers? Do we need to wait till the end, or should we wait till all the panelists they finish their address, and then later on at the end we are expected to ask questions? I don't know if panelists are agreeable to take questions all along.
Yes, actually, sir, you can type your questions in the chat box, and at the end of the panelist session, we will take up those questions. Okay, one by one.
Okay, great. I think I have about 15 minutes. Is that correct? Cool. I have a few slides, so I hope I'm able to project my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, you can. Shall I stop presenting my screen?
I mean, I think I have said I can. So yeah, like Dr. Azad said, I'm just going to take everyone through a brief overview of the e-mobility ecosystem in India today. This is a very different ecosystem today than it was maybe around 5-6 years ago when it actually started picking up in earnest. And every stage of the e-mobility transition comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities, and the kind of policy and business responses that are needed at any different stage of the transition vary from time to time. So what was appropriate at the beginning need not necessarily be appropriate today. So I'm hoping this context will help sort of set that tone and help the participants understand what may be some of the needed responses or solutions today. Briefly, first to provide some context, right, in terms of the importance of road transport in and why we're looking at targeting emissions from road transport. So this is from India's update reports to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. And it shows that the share of the energy sector in India's total GHG emissions is about 72%. Among those within the energy sector, transport is the third highest emitting sector. And within the transport, with about 13% of energy sector emissions in India, globally, this is a slightly higher number. It's around 24 to 25% of total energy emissions globally. But India, still being on its development pathway, it is lower today, but it also indicates that transport is one of the fastest growing sectors when it comes to CO2 emissions, as well as demand for transport. As we grow as a nation in terms of our economic growth, the demand for transport will grow. And it's very important that we start moving towards cleaner transport solutions so that this increased demand does not result in exponentially increased emissions. And as you can see in the bar on the right, road transport is actually responsible for 90% of that. Again, this is changing with civil aviation growing as a share of the total transport emissions. But today, road transport accounts for the bulk of transport sector emissions. And these emissions are expected to grow by more than 200% by 2050. If we dive into the road transport sector, we're looking at different vehicle segments, right? So two-wheelers, three-wheelers, passenger cars, buses, heavy-duty vehicles, and light duty vehicles. So heavy duty and light duty vehicles are the commercial freight vehicles, and the others are all passenger vehicles. This is the broad sort of distinction when you're looking at vehicle segments. So you can see that road transport accounts for about 87% is passenger traffic within road transport. 87% of passenger transport is done by road. The other would be done by rail or air. And 60% of freight traffic is moved by road transport. And today, if you see the graph on the left, you see that it is actually our two-wheelers, three-wheelers, which account for about 20% of the transport sector emissions, road transport emissions. Passenger cars account for about up to 30%. There are some error graphs, of course. You have buses, which account for 20 to 25%, and heavy-duty vehicles at about 40%, and light-duty vehicles at around 5%. Now, if you look at this in 2050, the key takeaways are the emissions, the proportional emissions from two-wheelers and three-wheelers are set to reduce, because more and more the proportion of passenger cars and passenger car ownership is growing at a faster rate than two-wheeler ownership. Traditionally, two-wheelers have been sort of around 70% of India's vehicular stock, road transport stock, but today that is changing slowly, very slowly. But more and more cars are coming onto the roads. And you can see that by 2050, car emissions are actually projected to reach up to 50% of total road transport emissions. And the other area which is set to sort of grow or stay equally important is your heavy duty trucking. So these are, and as well as your light commercial vehicles as well, your light duty trucking, which is on the right side, which is also set to grow to around 15%. So this gives us an indication of which segments we may need to focus on with greater urgency, given that they are going to be responsible for more emissions, or they're going to grow at a faster rate in terms of their emissions than other vehicle segments. And why electrification? There is a lot of debate and arguments in the ecosystem even today, because the internal combustion engine vehicles are the norm. They have been the mainstream for a long, for many decades now, and they are improving their efficiencies, true enough. But if we look at a net zero transport emissions pathway for India, you notice, you will see that there are only 2 or 3 key ways that you can reach net zero in the transport sector. One is moving to more shared modes of transport, moving to more efficient modes of transport. So you're talking about shifting your freight from road to rail. You're talking about moving from your personal cars to your public transport in cities. So that is called the shift part of the component. So there's a framework we use in the transport ecosystem called the Avoid, Shift, Improve framework, which is the 3 pathways for actually reducing transport emissions at scale towards net zero. The first, avoid, is travel less, right? Avoid your need to travel. With remote work and all picking up a little after COVID, even though we're going back to offices more and more, that sort of came into effect in terms of how can you reduce the total amount of travel demand. But given that in India, there is already a lot of people that don't have access to travel demand is only set to grow as incomes grow. And the second, as I was saying, is the shift pathway, where you shift to more efficient and more shared forms of transport, both for passenger and freight vehicles. And the third is the improve pathway, which is looking at improvement of the vehicular technologies so that they are cleaner. And that is the one under which electrification falls. And we see that in this graph, there are 2, this particular study, the details of which are available below, actually looked at the pathways for decarbonizing the Indian transport sector and found 2 main pathways. One is a rail-based pathway and one is a road-based pathway. Rail-based pathway requires that you start moving the bulk of your transport demand to rail, and even within a rail-based pathway, you note that electrification will still account for about 16 to 20% of the necessary emissions reduction. But if you look at a road-focused scenario, which is increasingly the business as usual scenario today, we realized that the only way to actually start moving towards net zero is by electrification. It's responsible for about 48.7% of the emissions reduction when you look at a road-focused scenario. Now, having hopefully sort of established the case and the urgency for electrification, this is a brief timeline of what the national policy initiatives have been for electric vehicles in India. So while some initial attempts did start in around 2009, 2010, 2013, when the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan was established with a target of achieving about 6 to 7 million electric vehicles by 2020 on the road at that time, that is when the policy pace started picking up in earnest. 2015, the Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Electric and Hybrid Vehicles scheme was launched, which is in short, it's known as FAME, the FAME 1 scheme, which was again renewed in 2019. And today in 2024, just a couple of months ago, this was further augmented by another scheme called the PM E-Drive scheme. The FAME schemes and the PM E-Drive scheme represent the demand incentives that the government of India at the central level has been offering to consumers. So there is it's common knowledge that EVs are more expensive, in many cases 1.5 to 2 times more expensive than your internal combustion engine vehicle equivalents. And therefore, the idea with the incentives is to reduce the upfront cost of EVs and make them more attractive or competitive for consumers to purchase. And that's what the FAME schemes and the 2024 PM E-Drive scheme are about. Apart from the demand side scheme, the government has also focused on augmenting production of electric vehicles in India. Now, why is this important? The automobile sector in India is responsible, the automobile manufacturing sector in India is responsible for about 7% of the country's GDP. And it employs over, I mean, the figures vary widely, but it employs about 30 million people if you look at both direct, indirect, formal and informal jobs, right from the upstream of vehicle manufacturing all the way to the downstream of transport workers, road mechanics, roadside mechanics and maintenance workers, etc. So across the entire value chain, it employs about 30 million plus people. And therefore, if you are looking at a transition to electric vehicles, you need to ensure that India's role within the global market as one of the top automobile manufacturing nations in the world is not diminished, which is why the PLI schemes, production-linked incentive schemes, like the PLI ACC, which is looking at advanced chemistry cell battery manufacturing, and the advanced auto and auto components PLI were introduced, which provide incentives to manufacturers upon the manufacture, scale up, and sale of electric vehicles, electric vehicle components, as well as battery cells. Apart from the production, I mean, the supply side and the demand side schemes, you also have a bunch of regulatory support in the form of electric vehicles. MORTH, actually, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, exempted EVs from permit requirements. The Ministry of Power exempted charging stations from the licensing required for the sale of electricity. So all of these are sort of support mechanisms to make it easier for the EV ecosystem to develop. From the bus perspective, India has been taking a very aggressive stance in electrifying its public buses, public transport buses. So very recent, I mean, again, last year in 2023, the PM E-Bus Seva was launched, which aims to provide support for about 10,000 electric buses across 160 cities in the country. And India is also very cognizant of its need for energy security when it comes to moving to the EV ecosystem, and so has become in the last year a member of the Mineral Security Partnership, which aims to secure its critical mineral requirements for battery manufacturing. So this is sort of a brief overview. There's of course a lot of other policies and schemes and enabling mechanisms that were provided, but it shows that there has been a continuous policy push at the national level. And this has had an impact. So today, if you see the ecosystem, you have about 2.6 million or 26 lakh, 26.5 lakh two-wheelers on the road. You have about 21.7 lakh three-wheelers. This is including both e-rickshaws as well as electric autos. You have about 2 lakh cars, 2 lakh plus cars, close to 10,000 buses, and about 25,000 public charging stations in the country today. And EV penetration, the market share of EVs among total vehicle registrations has increased from 0.5% in 2018 to about 6.5% in 2023. This is also around 6.3% or so today. Even in 2024, it hasn't grown, but it hasn't decreased as well so far. And one critical target that the government of India is working towards in the EV ecosystem is a commitment that India made alongside 13 other countries at the global level to reach an EV market share of 30% new vehicle registrations to be EVs by 2030. While there have been many other projections and estimates about how EVs are likely to grow, also by global agencies like the International Energy Agency and the International Transport Forum, etc., as well as domestic think tanks. The only target to which India has actually committed on the EV front, to some extent, has been this 30% by 2030. And that is what we also work towards when we are working both at a national level or at a subnational level, because this is the main commitment by the country. Again, if you look at the net zero pathways and scenarios required, you are looking at trajectories up to 2050, 2060, by when different segments need to be 100% electrified. But in our short to medium term, the 2030 target is the one that the ecosystem is working towards. Now, that's at the national level. At the state level as well, we've had quite a bit of action. About 26 states and union territories have notified state-level EV policies, and there are another 7 or so states which actually have draft EV policies. And states also provide various types of incentives. So on top of the incentives provided by the national government, states also provide a lot of incentives like additional purchase subsidies. So say the national government is giving you 1.5 lakhs of your car, of a new electric car, then states have further supplemented that, saying there's a sort of top-up incentive of maybe an additional up to 1 lakh off on any e-car purchase, depending on the state you're in. So you can see that many states also have, the ones in yellow are the ones that have that particular mechanism. So the first column is purchase subsidies, which is a subsidy on the upfront cost of the vehicle. And you can see that a lot of states actually offer purchase subsidies, which are in addition to the national government subsidies, right? Apart from that, there are also vehicle scrapping or retrofit incentives, permit incentives, where they exempt the requirement for permits for commercial vehicles, for electric vehicles, etc. You have charging incentives, and you also have manufacturing incentives. Many states have been aggressively looking at the EV ecosystem or the EV transition as an opportunity to increase industrial investments in their own regions, as well as increase livelihoods, the number of jobs generated from the EV sector in their regions. And so many states are also providing various are providing things like capital subsidies for any industrial investments that are made in the state, as well as land development incentives, skill development incentives. This is only sort of a very small list within here that we have provided, but there are many others like skill development incentives, R&D incentives, etc., that states are also promulgating. And if you see the landscape of EV manufacturing in India, it is vibrant. You have quite a few two-wheeler and three-wheeler manufacturers, I would say. A lot of them have come up from the startup ecosystem. So all of you would know, the Aethers and the Olas, but even in the three-wheeler space, there are several like Omega Seki, Bility Electric, Altigreen. Many, especially in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler ecosystem, the electrification manufacturing agenda has been actually being led by startups. The legacy OEMs are following slowly but surely and are also now overtaking the market once they enter it. But the real ecosystem has been getting created over the past 5-6 years by a lot of these young startup firms. In the four-wheeler and heavier and the four-wheeler and say the truck space and all, you see that it is still the legacy OEMs that are looking at electrification. So Tata and Mahindra are your top folks that are looking at car electrification, for example. Even in your last mile space, Mahindra is a significant player, and so it is a sort of interesting mix, and it's a dynamic mix in the EV manufacturing today. One is the type of companies, the other is the location of companies. Traditionally, automotive manufacturing in India has been in 3 or 4 big clusters across the country. So you have the northern cluster, which was around the NCR region. You had the western cluster, which was largely concentrated in Maharashtra. You had the southern cluster, which was primarily Tamil Nadu, a little bit in the east with West Bengal. Today, there are a few new investment zones that are kind of cropping up. So Telangana is one. Telangana has been aggressively pursuing their electric mobility investments in their state. And you do see that there are a lot of three-wheeler folks and all that are starting to set up shop in the state. Karnataka has also seen a few two-wheeler and three-wheeler manufacturing, and even battery manufacturing has sort of been picking up in Karnataka and other regions, primarily close to Bangalore and near Hosur, which also then comes into Tamil Nadu. But the startup ecosystem being concentrated in Bangalore a lot has also benefited EV investments in Karnataka. Gujarat has been a major gainer, while they had a few vehicle manufacturing investments prior. Today, in terms of when you're talking about battery manufacturing and all, Gujarat has been actually getting a lot of investments as well. So you do see new geographies that are coming up that are taking advantage of the transition to actually increase the economic dynamism of their own regions. So that was a overview. It's not a comprehensive overview, of course. There are enablers like financing and charging and all, which I'll only be able to cover in brief given the time constraint. But if we're looking at the ecosystem today, here are a few segment-wise challenges and strategies that need to be addressed, right? So for electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers, the costs are still higher, but if you have high enough utilization, such as for commercial use cases, the economics work out. And the fleet operators and the folks that are actually running very high kilometers on these vehicles are aware of this. So it's not about convincing folks to purchase EVs in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler segments, but it's about really in the two-wheeler space, it's about improvements in product safety and reliability. It is about easy servicing and need. So that's what we're looking at in the two-wheeler space. I mean, recently there's been sort of a class action lawsuit against one of the two-wheeler manufacturers because of the delays in servicing and the many problems that are cropping up in the electric two-wheelers. And these kind of challenges can actually significantly impact consumer confidence in a product. And therefore, it becomes very critical that you are not just creating a product, but you're creating a good quality product. And you're also ensuring that the ecosystem for the product, be it for charging, be it for servicing, is ready. In the electric three-wheeler space, one of the key challenges even today, to some extent, is the access to affordable financing and again, servicing and repairs. Three-wheelers primarily are a commercial segment. They are used for livelihood generation by the drivers. And so you cannot have the vehicle sort of stuck in a shop just because, it went in for a minor repair. So, and you do want competitive access financing. So if financing interest rates for ICE three-wheelers, internal combustion engine three-wheelers like CNG or petrol three-wheelers are about 10 to 12%. It becomes much more uncompetitive if the interest rates for electric three-wheelers are around 18 to 20%. are around 18 to 20%, which is where they are today. So how do you improve access to affordable financing, and how do you again create a reliable ecosystem for servicing and repairs? And another critical factor in the electric three-wheeler piece is how do you start offering maybe the battery as a service or mainstream battery swapping? Again, given that these vehicles need to be on the road as much as possible to earn more. Any reduction in charging downtime can help the economics. But today, battery swapping in India has sort of largely been a closed loop ecosystem because of a lack of standardized specifications that have come out across the ecosystem. And so this has led to sort of one-off partnerships between one battery swap operator and one OEM, but it's been unable to sort of scale to an ecosystem level where, as someone who has a swappable battery, you can go to any battery swapping kiosk and change your vehicle. You'll have to look for a specific one with which your OEM has tied up. So how can you mainstream battery swapping becomes one challenge in the three-wheeler space. In four-wheelers, there's still a need for an increased number of vehicle models at competitive prices. So like in the mass segments, you still don't have a lot of EVs, which is the bulk segment for Indian consumers, especially because a lot of Indian consumers are entering the car market, right? So you need to have mass market vehicles and the under 10 lakh sort of golden rule of cars. And there are not many models in the EV space in that segment. And another way to also promote more electric four-wheelers is stronger regulations for promoting the shift to clean cars. So there are things like the BS norms and the CAFE norms, which look at the fuel efficiency of the vehicles manufactured by OEMs. If you strengthen the fuel efficiency requirements, then OEMs would also then move much of their production to EVs to have a higher fuel efficiency or a more improved fuel efficiency. So even through regulations, you can promote the shift to electric vehicles in certain segments. And in e-buses, which again, like I had previously mentioned, has been a major strategic segment that the government has been promoting, there is the need for a market or ecosystem for e-bus operators, because our state transport undertakings today are looking at public-private partnerships for operating electric buses, and the large bulk of bus fleets in the country are actually owned by private operators. So how do you create the technical competencies and capacities and enough operators that can actually operate electric buses under these public-private partnership modes, and also increase the share of private electric buses? And the second piece in electric buses, again, is financing for e-buses at scale. When you're talking about electric three-wheelers, you're talking about, okay, interest rate for one person. But when you're talking about e-buses at scale, the ambition for e-buses has grown very quickly in India. So first it was like 10,000 e-buses. Then the target became 50,000. And now the conversations are around 8 lakh e-buses around the country. And if you're talking about that amount for a vehicle, for a heavy duty vehicle, you're talking about immense scales of financing. So how do you find concessional finance? How do you leverage green finance, etc., to actually create, and how do you have the right guarantee mechanisms in place to ensure that financing for e-buses is available, so that that does not become a barrier to the rapid electrification of buses at scale? So that's that's just an overview from a segment wise. I have a couple of other slides on battery manufacturing and EV charging, but I think in the interest of time, I'll pause here, and I'm happy to then sort of pick up anything further in questions. So thank you. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Chaitanya, for your roundup of the policies and your current scenario about the e-vehicles. And we have number of your questions. One question is around rural or urban divide. Mr. Suresh Vishwakarma from Canada, he has asked about these e-vehicle policies and the sustainable transportation initiatives are based on the urban India only, and there is much divide with the rural part. So how do you see this regional disparity, the urban versus rural divide? And that will definitely impede the sustainability initiatives.
I can briefly take that. I do see that there are quite a few questions. But on this, on the urban-rural divide, the main reason EVs, the urban push for EVs began is for two reasons, right? One is the unit economics work better in densely populated cities. So you have it's easier to provide charging infrastructure, for example, because you have a higher concentration of vehicles in urban areas. So planning for charging becomes easier, which was a critical component for the EV ecosystem. The second reason is emissions are higher in urban areas. So when you look at it from a policy perspective as well, there was an urgent need to start decarbonizing transport systems in urban areas, and that is the second reason there was the focus on urban areas. Now, having said that, of course, it's important that rural areas are not left behind when you're talking about EVs. And there is now some increasing research going on how do you create the right models to have viable electrification of vehicles in rural areas. So for that, you need to better understand the road networks that are available, the electricity networks that are available, all of which are now actually just about in the past few years have reached some of the rural areas, right? So how do you have robust enough electricity networks? Do you have to look at off-grid solutions for charging, etc.? And what are the business models that would work in rural areas, right? So there are a lot of different parameters that need to be considered and different models that are needed for rural areas, but it is something that is, and how do you plan for charging as well, of course? Like where do you place charging? Does someone have to travel 10 kilometers to access charging, or is it viable at smaller intervals? Can you put up more charging? So all of these become questions, and that is definitely something that needs to be looked at in greater detail.
Chaitanya, thank you very much for your explanation. Just quickly, I wanted to share that I believe it is high time in the Indian scenario also, as we have in Canadian scenario. Here also, our grid is not extended everywhere. If you keep on driving for almost 400 kilometers, you might not get any distribution transformer. Similar is the situation there. So don't you think that it will be a good idea to consider the option of battery energy storage system or distributed energy resources or microgrid, because India is blessed with plenty of abundance of sunshine. So if we have got this mobile charging units, that means during the daytime we charge our batteries using the renewable energy, so that will be a net zero option, and during the night time those can be used. So wherever the grid is not available, still there is an option. This is something we are working in Canadian scenario also. Maybe there can be a very good public private partnership, and then maybe we can encourage. This will basically, in fact, generate some self-employment also for the unemployed youth, until and unless we focus, because our majority of area, the majority of area, it is still rural, and until and unless we focus on them, people are still scared of going on a long drive using an electric vehicle. So very first thing, there are not enough mechanics to repair that if should there be a problem. Secondly, the charging infrastructure is very poor. Anyway, thank you very much for the good presentation. I don't want to take everybody's time. And thanks for answering my both questions.
I think battery energy storage systems are something that are actively being looked at. Again, it's all about having the financials work, right? Because if you're getting the private sector to invest in installing both charging as well as battery energy storage systems, how do you ensure that the business model works so that you have more and more of these coming up? Because it's not viable for public investments to go into it at such scale. That's why PPPs are something that government is actively exploring for charging infrastructure. But definitely, even for highway areas where grid, like power reliability may not be for 24 hours, etc., there are increasing discussions on the need to ensure reliability, because again, this is a matter of consumer confidence. If you reach a charging station and you find that you are unable to charge because there's no power, or you're going to charge using a diesel genset because the power is not there from the grid, then it becomes self-defeating, and it dents consumer confidence. So more reliable solutions like BESS, which can ensure constant availability of power, are definitely needed.
They can be unmanned also. That means using mobile app.
Dr. Azad, back to you. And I'm not sure, in the interest of time, whether you want to take more questions now or we can take them later, because I know that Professor Karthik also will have speak quite a bit about freight and stuff, electric freight. So many of these questions might also be across both.
Yeah, he's probably.
Yeah,
or
Dr.
he's
Karthik,
not
I
there.
would, yeah, sorry, Dr. Karthik, I would appreciate that maybe you can take over, because for the
Oh, I know.
for the economy of everybody's time. As such, at my place it is 10:25 p.m.
I know. So
So I
Vancouver
want,
is not,
yeah,
is not exactly
exactly.
timing for Vancouverites. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. So
Sorry about that. Maybe you can proceed, and then we can,
thank you.
and then people will write their
Thank you.
questions. Yeah, yeah. Please proceed.
So Chaitanya, good to see you again, and thank you for saving me a lot of time with your content. So so let's take a larger view. I don't have a presentation. I thought this was predominantly targeted to students in the academy. So I just thought I'll come and talk my way through. So anyway, I think electrification in India, the first and foremost is that we need to be selfish. We need to be bothered about what matters to us, and we need to focus on that. The rest will take care of itself. So what do we need in the country? One, we need electrification for the sake of energy security. Mercifully, it doesn't conflict with emissions. So you're actually able to see common purpose with the rest of the world. And we need to make sure that it is cost efficient and it contributes to the economy, that we do not pay a cost penalty on account of this. Mercifully, once again, we are starting off at a period when this is possible. If we had started 10 years ago, it would have been much more scarier, far less scarier now. But let's get down to some of the key concerns which most of us will have. The first one is, including our beloved ex-captain MS Dhoni, everyone keeps saying, no, your grid is polluted. What's the use of electrifying? So let's look at it this way. When I was young, mom used to take care of most of the cooking at home. So I will use that example. If my mother waited for me to get hungry and then started cooking, I would probably develop a migraine every single day on account of hunger, right? So she starts cooking at a certain time, knowing that people are going to reach a hunger point. So that's something similar here. We all know that, and trust the experts on this, please. We know that if the grid is generating 47% renewable, electric vehicles are carbon neutral, right? Their footprint is far superior to diesel. So we are at about 70% non-renewable. So we are 30%, and reaching 47% is going to happen in 10, 15 years. Now, if you start electrifying after that, you're going to be paying a penalty in terms of carbon emissions, right? So I don't think we should keep asking this question. This is proven and it is required, and we stop asking this question and start committing ourselves to electrify in a sensible manner which protects people, right? That we need just transition. A lot of poor people in India, so we have to take care of them. We have a moral responsibility. But it's proven, and India is definitely going to cross 50% in the next 10 to 15 years in terms of generation, not installed capacity. So we should put this behind us and we should move on. The other one on the grid is, we don't have grid strength. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. This first started in the Western countries, where they have had superb infrastructure and they have taken the grid for granted over the years. So without thinking, a guy would put up a fairly powerful charger in his street and assume and expect it to work. India doesn't work this way. There are three aspects to the grid. One is generation, the second is transmission, and the third is distribution, right? So India is fairly okay on the generation front and transmission front. And we have been so pathetically poor on the distribution front that even if I have to put up a small factory, the local electricity board or the DISCOM will ask me to put up one transformer yard, get a special line from the substation, etc. So every time we put up something, we strengthen the grid. So our concern is the cost we incur towards that and not the unpredictability. It is predictable because it is not there. So we have always been providing for it, and we continue to provide for it in the charging station also. The grid is going to be fairly competent to handle it as long as the distribution part is, as usual, handled by the user of the electricity. We keep paying for it. The electricity board charges us and gives us the connection. So we continue doing that. It results in higher costs in India. It also results in more lead time to electrify a certain charging station. So we'll keep this in mind, especially because in the context of trucks, this becomes a nightmare. The trucks are the backbone, one of the key structural elements of the Indian economy. Trucking, as Chaitanya was pointing out, is anywhere between 60 to 70%. It moves the goods in the country. So you can't afford to take chances with trucks stopping all over the highway. And a related point is the pollution over life cycle of batteries. It is too polluting. We are not taking the overall picture. We are taking the overall picture. There are a lot of people who get their monthly salaries to do this workings, and they continue to make sure that the overall carbon footprint of all the way from mining and extraction till recycling and disposal, that entire carbon footprint and emissions are evaluated. So this is important for us to recognize. There are people who are half informed and who are extremely loud about their registering their concerns. You do not see them providing data in full. So if you go to the actual experts, you will see that there is merit in electrification from the pollution angle as well. But one important part, you have to recycle. Now, the same problem exists for plastics. It exists for petrochemical side, paints, etc. And I haven't seen these people who object to batteries stop using plastics or paint. So I'm sure that they will find good reason to move to the battery economy. So third one, India, we keep importing all the raw material, we keep importing all the technology, we are really relying on China, etc. So once again, let's drop electric vehicles and we'll go into construction. When a new type or new mode of construction starts, including all your metro railway stations, a lot of the technology and the equipment is being imported. This is how a new activity starts in any country, not just India, but in any country, right? Unless you're one of the first path breakers, which is limited. So nobody takes the leadership in EV in the world except China to some extent. If you look at Europe, they continue importing. If you look at the US, they continue importing. If you catch the same countries 15 years, 20 years later, they will not be importing. We need to be cognizant of this and travel this path. It's a journey we've undertaken. It's important that we concede these points. It so happens this is extremely powerful opinions in the WhatsApp universities. So we need to be careful about our concerns and start committing ourselves after doing our own diligence. We need to first believe experts. If we are not in a position to believe experts, then we need to spend time doing our diligence before questioning the rightness behind electrification. One more thing is EVs don't make noise. So in a city, if I step off the platform or pathway onto the road, I might get run over. Very valid point. There is regulation which is coming up for this. The vehicles need to make noise till they reach about 30 kilometers per hour. After that, you will hear the tire noise. So you won't need the engine noise to help you. And this is already regulated and it's in the process of being released. So it's not, I don't think it's there for two-wheelers, but I know that it is under negotiations in CMVR-TSC and AISC, which is the regulatory authority in India for automotive products. And the famous WhatsApp University EV fire videos. So once again, I think 1930s, there were enough gasoline explosions, which never stopped us from adopting gasoline, which was a very, very good choice at that time. And as of today, statistically speaking, air crashes get more media than train crashes or road. But aircraft travel is the safest in terms of the number of accidents and fatalities per 1,000 or per million. So same thing with EV fires, statistically not significant at all, but in WhatsApp University, it's extremely scary what you see. But we need to, once again, consider this in the larger picture. You do not find a government, any government, taking up a dangerous thing. We need to start trusting these judgments and questioning the details there rather than stepping back and questioning the entire policy. There are people who are being paid to do this and who are being trusted with this. As qualified engineers, we need to do our bit. So the EV fire is one more concern, which is actually not a very valid concern. We need to be careful. We need to make sure it's safe, but it is definitely not poor enough for us to run away from. You need to run away from the fire, but you shouldn't run away from electrification. That's the point I'm making. Now, one more problem is charging time, right? It takes too much time. So if you look at domestic use, people who are using it for private passenger travel, globally, including in India, close to 95% of the energy is pumped in at home. So very, very rarely do you need all these public charging infrastructures inside the cities. But on the highways, this is a very important mental and operational requirement. People will need to be confident that they can charge anywhere and continue traveling. So for that, the government as well as the private sector have started taking initiatives, but it's a chicken and egg story. Where are the vehicles to charge? I've put up a charger. It's not even charging for 10 hours per month. That's the complaint from the charging operator. And then the passenger, the driver of the EV saying, where are the charging stations? I'm not finding enough, right? So these will evolve. And the best way to help these to evolve is for government to step in and fund these losses. That's what they're doing right now.
Sorry for interrupting you. We don't have different level of charging in India, and we don't have different tariff for time of use. Like here we have got, if you charge after 11 p.m. and in the morning up till 7 a.m. you pay lowest. And for level 1, level 2, level 3 chargers also, if you are in rush and if you want to charge fast, then you will have to pay highest tariff. That means level 3. But if suppose you are easygoing person and you can still wait for say half an hour, then you can opt for level 1 charging. So that gives you an option. So whoever is in rush, he can pay. He has to pay more, otherwise else you pay low. So it all depends on you. I don't know if that the scheme is functional in India, but in Western countries it is there.
Yeah. So this is something which is in the process of coming in, and it is a state topic in India, and there's very little federal control, and there's very little commitment from states to harmonize their tariff policies. So this will evolve, I guess, but there are states where there is this policy already in place. Next one is battery swapping. Right now, the odds are loaded against swapping in terms of the money, the tariff they pay, the GST structure, and also the insurance and other financial parameters. They are not very well structured for this. So the only place where swapping can happen successfully is in a closed loop, as Chaitanya was talking about, in a closed loop project financing model. And that too, it makes sense only if your opportunity cost is very high. So if you lose money by charging for half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, then you should swap and make sure that you don't lose earning money. So such applications are very limited today. Opportunity costs are very low. So it doesn't see break even very easily. I can vouch for it because I was running the India's first swappable buses in Ahmedabad when I was running the business for Ashok Leyland. And it was superb. From against a commitment of 210, 220 kilometers per day, we were able to go all the way up to 280 kilometers per day because of battery swapping. And there the opportunity cost was quite high for Ahmedabad municipality. So they paid for the extra hours of operation. So, but swapping things are currently loaded against it. Even though the government has said swapping policy, we've not seen it being implemented fully. And also standardizing a battery, and I think given the ethical and engineering practices and safety practices in India as a track record, we have a poor track record. So putting anybody's battery inside my vehicle, which I've paid for, I find it very scary. And also, in case it does result in a failure or a breakdown or even a minor fire, I don't know who to go to, because the insurance guy is not going to cover everything. And if he is able to even show that the battery was the reason, then my insurance claim on the vehicle will go off. So all these need to evolve. They will evolve, and there will be a segment. So this is not a question about is it swapping or charging. It is swapping and charging, right?
Sorry if I can intercept once again. Sorry, but it's very interesting. Tell me, we don't have the concept of automobile associations in different states. Like here we have got Canadian Automobile Association, British Columbia Automobile Association, and their job is whatever just now you said. It is their job. You just pay certain money to them, and then every time, whenever you get any problem, wherever you are stuck, they will be the one responsible. They will come to your place. They will bring the spare battery, or they will bring the spare fuel. They will bring a mechanic, or they will even tow your car. So that is well covered within the insurance. So probably that can be a solution what you are saying to.
You probably missed my point. It's more about the money for it, and the insurance cover doesn't cover it right now. So that's the point. Anyway, so the third concern, especially for trucks, is the weight penalty. So a typical truck is going to be at least 2 tons and probably up to 4 tons more heavier, an electric truck. But regulation is being modified so that these trucks are permitted with higher GVW. And I did notice one question on the chat box on account of this, and I can answer that. Heavier trucks are less efficient, I agree, but overall efficiency is so good compared to combustion engines that it's just no match. So instead of 92%, I'll probably be operating at an overall system efficiency of 90% at a vehicle level for electric, and for ICE engines, it's going to be 30%. So there's just no comparison. And really, efficiency is not the question. Cost is. So if I have a more competitive product which is less efficient in terms of energy usage, I would go for it any day. And that's how economy works. Economy works because things make money sense, and efficiency is a tool to get there. It's really not the end objective. And so why are we not electrifying? I think the biggest issue today is money, right? The total cost of ownership, the financing, and the risk cover for the financier. What is the resale value of this truck? We do not know. What is the resale value of this car? We do not know. So when they take up a loan, they do not know how to cover their risks for that. So risk cover products are required, and they are being designed for that. Once again, at a truck level, to sign off, we are at a very, very lucky phase compared to Europe and USA. We are starting close to 5-6 years later. So the concerns which were there, I still keep seeing a lot of my colleagues abroad make this mistake, where they start talking about the concerns which they had 6 years ago. But in India, 2 of those concerns do not exist anymore. Because one, our context in trucking is different, and second, our cost structures are very different. So today, if a truck burns 27 lakhs of diesel per year, rupees 27 lakhs of diesel per year per truck. He needs to electrify for profitability, but he's not electrifying for other reasons: lack of models, lack of charging, lack of insurance, lack of finance, other reasons. But it makes money sense to electrify if he's burning 27 lakhs of diesel per truck per year. So we are much closer to that. About 60% of the country's trucks do burn about 25 lakhs of diesel. So there's a lot of potential for electrification, but the financing has to come, the risk loss products have to come, the resale price mechanisms have to come. These will evolve. There's every reason to be optimistic because the cost problem is sorted out. And I think I will stop here and hand it back to the chair. Hopefully, Dr. Azad is back after the technical glitch.
Thank you, Karthik. And you have summarized all these possibilities of e-trucks. And lot of work is being done as Bharat, the zero emission truck is being handled by the principals, your scientific, your advisor office, and that very well-known names like you are working in IITs and you're at the industrial level to make it possible. And we can hope the conversion of this fleet of trucks into e-trucks very, very soon. This will be a reality. Thank you, Karthik. And if there is any question, we will come back to you. Thank you. And now,
Dr.
and
Ajaz,
your,
do we have time? Do we have time for a question for Dr. Karthik?
Dr. Karthik, if we have any questions, then we will forward it to your Dr. Karthik, and we will take his feedback.
Yeah, sure. We are running badly out of
All
time.
right, okay, not a problem. Thank you.
Okay, now I am calling your Dr. Sunil Kumar Sharma, who is the Executive Director, Indian Railways. And Indian Railways has very ambitious plan for net zero by 2050 or 2070. And they are working overtime on it. A lot of this railway station buildings have been converted to the green building. Lot of work is undertaken by Indian Railways. So I request Dr. Sharma to summarize all these ongoing projects of Indian Railways to achieve net zero and sustainability.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunil Sharma. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be associated with this, I'll say, the need of the hour. Indian Railways has realized the importance of energy saving initiatives. And it's a very ambitious project and complex one also, because railways has a lot of components compared to other railways. We are carrying freight, we are carrying passengers, we are also serving the suburban transportation needs. As well, we are carrying out the production also of our rolling stock. So these initiatives has to span a wide spectrum, and accordingly, our policy has evolved with that complexity. Just to give in a brief idea that we are carrying about 13,000 freight and passenger trains, and present level of energy consumption is, I think, about 25,000 gigawatt hour. So that is the volume. If we are able to switch and achieve our ambitious target of what already Dr. Azad has introduced, it will be really good for the society as a whole. Beginning with energy efficiency initiatives, our initiatives covers our locomotives, our trains, stations, coaches, wagons, operations as well, infrastructure. So I'll beginning with what we are doing with the railway locomotives. We have come out with three-phase energy efficient locomotives with regenerative brakings. When locomotive pilot uses the brake controlling his train, uh, the energy earlier used to just release in friction losses. Now it is fed to the locomotive grid and that can be reused. Similarly, we are conventional lighting system is replaced by LED lighting systems in our coaches as well. Similarly, we are using IGBT transformation based three-phase locomotives for propulsion system in our suburban trains. So that is also giving us good results. We are also experimenting with the mode of transportation that is combining various freight trains, that is multiple trains with single or multiple locomotives to save the energy. We are also working with the objective of increasing the haulage capacity at wagon level. We rate a wagon by its capacity of transportation per axle, let's say 20.3 ton axle load. So a wagon, including its own weight, can carry about 82 ton. And with systematic inputs, we have increased it to 22.3 ton. Now we have come with indigenous technology and we are transporting up to 25 ton per ton axle load. So the results are quite impressive. Suppose a 58 wagon train is transporting iron ore mineral. So it can roughly 58 wagon will be translated into 25 ton extra load. So 500 million ton can be extra loaded with same set of locomotives. So that is giving us good result in terms of cost as well as in terms of energy consumption. Similarly, when we are combining multiple freight trains with existing loco fleets, that is also giving us good results in terms of energy saving. Apart from that, we are working to augment our solar generation capacity. Now we have reached about 238 megawatt. We are also working with wind power, solar wind power generation, and that is about 138 megawatt power has already been, I think, commissioned. So, apart from that, we are electrifying our routes, and that has done to significant level. We are also promoting our siding owners to electrify their own siding so that the need of putting diesel locomotives or other alternative locomotives is reduced to zero. And that will also enhance our transportation efficiency in the sense that there will not be need of changing the traction, let's say electric to diesel and again diesel to electric when sidings are electrified. So when loads are ready to move out and it will be taken by the same locomotives which has brought it.
Dr. Sunil, I'm very sorry for interrupting you because it is getting too late and I have a very good question for you. I'm also an electrical engineer and I worked for Madhya Pradesh Electricity Board for 12 years. How do you see integration of solar and wind energy into railway operations in the foreseeable future? Because you have got your dedicated traction stations and you take supply from our electricity board. So as such, you have your infrastructure ready. How do you see integrating your both solar energy, wind energy to them? And just one more add on to this question: how do you see the modernization also? I mean to say the adoption of smart technology for energy efficiency, predictive maintenance, real time monitoring, all these things in the foreseeable. Because I can see still there are diesel locomotives operational as compared to the electric one. Sorry if my questions are long.
Yes, let me clarify the position. The number of diesel locomotives has reduced significantly. The current fleet is, I am not able to exactly recall because I am out of operation for quite some time now. But it has reduced what it used to be by, I think, 80%. Diesel locomotives are kept for meeting out the emergency because Indian railways are subject to nature's vagaries, disasters, cyclonic disturbances. In those kind of times, we need to have a alternative arrangement to restore the system, or whenever any accident takes place, the diesel locomotives help us in removing the congestion from the accident points. So that kind of minimum, I think, is the system's requirement. Otherwise, 90 or 95% haulage will be by electric locomotives, uh, because the loco pilots need to be kept in their good touch with driving locomotives. Otherwise, it will be difficult to handle such a situation. Apart from that, coming back to your second point, that is modernizing the infrastructure. When we are talking about new locomotives, energy efficient locomotives, so various predictive technologies are being integrated in diesel locomotives. We were earlier using the REM lot kind of system. It was giving back the signals when the something is going to fail. Apart from that, not only locomotives or from energy efficient perspective, from the maintenance perspectives, we are aggressively pursuing the new technology in every field: coach maintenance, locomotive maintenance, production as well, of both locomotives, coaches, and wagons. So, modernizing the infrastructure is one of the essential and integrated step, as you have rightly highlighted, that this is in our scheme of things. So far as integration of various subsystems and systems is concerned, Railways is working on this, and we are going to come out with well-led policies in this regard very soon, I think. Uh, that's it.
I'm sorry to say, but if you go through your annual record, the number of accidents that includes fatalities also, that has never gone to single digit. It has always remained annual figure in double digits, despite having all modernization, everything. I'm not challenging or I'm not blaming the efficiency, but don't you think there is something, this predictive, either predictive maintenance, or we have some real time monitoring? Most of the time the investigation come out that yes, there was lack of sensation, prior sensitization. I know that there are some activities by foreign elements, but apart from that, at times there are technical issues also. So that is something people prefer to drive their own vehicle rather than, at times, all these things happen. I know that there is huge population density,
Sir,
but this is also something that needs to be looked into.
sir, I beg to differ. Probably the real Indian scenario is something different. There are many areas only railway connectivity is the only solution of the people. You come to Jharkhand and many areas where Indian Railways is serving. The people come with the morning train and go back to the evening train. So it's not that people are having always option. What you are saying is for the medium kind of distance travel. Long distance travel, people have no option. Or if we are looking for some, let's say, bulk transportation, the railway will always in a better option. Yes, accident is always in a cause of concern and will remain always a cause of concern, because it cannot be said कि आज हम पूरे accident free हो गए. Uh, so this is the area, and multiple level complex things happens. You already mentioned one of the cause, I think, but I was given to understand that the area of discussion was energy, not the
Yes,
accident
yes, yes.
status.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
I think that can be tackled at in separate
Yeah.
discussion.
In separate your session, we can take your that kind of your questions. Here, your focus is on the sustainability, and role of railways in sustainability is quite elaborative, because railways plays a major role in transportation in India. There is no substitute to railways, and
And
Just that,
moreover, compared to road accidents, railway is
yes.
performing much better compared to the road accident. Uh, that doesn't mean that we don't have to act upon what the current scenario is. We are working on that. We are very much aware of that, and uh, lot many things are being done from staff sensitization to new technology integration to the safety sensitive strategy implementation. I think that will give us good result.
And one more thing, your railway is your working in this hydrogen train and your areas that are quite innovative. And they are using your solar in their ICF factory and other your factories. They are using your solar for their railway and yards, your railway stations. Lot of the work has been done, and this dedicated
We are
train,
working on
your
the
fuel work.
hydrogen fuel based train. Since our requirement of transportation is relatively different from other countries, so we have to come out with our own technical solution to handle our problem. Solar has been adopted as one of the good strategy, and it is just giving us the results. See, 10 years back, we were somewhere about 10 megawatt or so. Now we are handling about 234 or 238 megawatt solar power generation. So efforts are being put in right direction. I can say that much.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sunilji.
okay, thanks.
And you have your put your all the railways your perspective for net zero and your sustainability, and the railways has to play a very major role. This dedicated freight corridor and other things that are changing the scenario of freight transportation in India. And now moving forward, we are moving towards the aviation sector now, and I request Ms. Smartika Hazra to tell us about the sustainability aspect in aviation sector.
Hi, so am I audible and visible to everyone? Okay, so first of all, thank you very much to GT Academy and Dr. C.S. Azad for this opportunity and inviting panelists across different industries and, people who are experts and who have been doing this since years. And also, simultaneously inviting someone like me who is very new into this and being part of sustainable practices. So being a student of sustainability management and sustainability professional in the making, I can say. So I would like to focus on the practices that are currently in place. So I will not cover the policy part or let's say the long-term strategy part or what is the current Indian scenario or let's say the global scenario. I will directly move on to the practices that are in place, which has also been part of my study and part of my work, part of my understanding and all of it. So first of all, when it comes to the airport industry, so I would like to say that it covers a large percentage of the transport industry as a whole. Now, the point is why sustainability and why they need to incorporate such practices into their business. Now, the first thing first is that for businessmen, the profit part is very important, right? So when they talk about sustainability, first of all, convincing the top management, I mean, irrespective of all the policies, all the current trends that are there in place currently, be it net zero or be it renewable energy or the upcoming COP29 discussions and all that. So keeping aside all that, so let's get to the profit part first. So if they incorporate sustainability into their business practices, how they are going to get a profit out of it, how that part is going to be taken care of, apart from considering the effects on environment, society, and every other aspect of their business. So I have tried to cover all the areas that are there, that are being covered. I mean, that are being addressed as part of concern from the airport industry as a whole. So the areas include, first of all, they are focusing on greener fuel, and they are shifting to renewable energy, and they are when it comes to adopting sustainable practices, they are switching to energy conservation and reduced consumption as well. They are focusing on sustainable planning and designing, and waste management is being taken care of. water management, as well as advanced technology is being adopted. Now, the main thing is, I mean, if you go to the airports these days, you will notice that the overall approach to their business has drastically changed. So airports are now no longer, just a transport station where you will just, wait for some time and you get your flight and you just go to your destination and you go back and forth. So that has no longer be the situation. So airports as a whole, their appearance has started to change. So when it comes to sustainable design, sustainable cooling system and everything, so apart from providing luxury and comfort to all their passengers, providing a unique experience to everyone, they are also being able to generate profit at the same time. They're also able to gain their competitive advantage among their peers, and at the same time, they are able to project their brand as a sustainable brand overall, right? So we will get into all all the nitty-gritties of it, and I will discuss the practices that are currently in place. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so the first thing is sustainable aviation fuel. So why sustainable aviation fuel? So what are the advantages of it, and why should companies switch to it? Even though India is currently at a very early stage of adopting this practice, but they are in practice, and we can considering several reports and the current scenario, we can conclude that India aims to blend 1% of their SAF production into domestic aviation fuel by 2025, and they're also considering increasing the percentage in future, of course. Now, SAF is vitally important as it can address the decarbonization of fuel over its life cycle, and then this is now available to be used in all turbine engines, including mid and long-range aircrafts also. Now, we will now look into the advantages, the main advantages of using SAF. So the first thing is reduces GHG emission up to 80%. Next, it blends in with the conventional fuel very perfectly. And it also limits toxic non-CO2 emissions such as, NOx and SO2 and particulate matter, so that, it can affect the air pollution emissions as less as possible. And next thing is it is fully compliant with aviation standards. So once the production of SAF is completed, then it has to get certified by ASTM. So I'll go into that detail later. And it has to meet all the safety standards that are there. And also it improves aircraft performance. It doesn't create that sort of that white what is it called, like white cast or something, that that a flight leaves on the clouds. So that creates a lot of pollution. So to omit all these things and gain profit at the same time, so this is a very feasible option. Now, coming to the production of SAF, it contains it requires organic material. So the raw material is completely sustainable and 100% organic. So it starts with gathering all the raw materials such as oils and fats, which includes used cooking oil, animal fats, etc., and sugar cane or cereals, and municipal solid waste or wood and agricultural residue as well. So now it includes 4 stages of production, which includes feedstock collection and processing. So the chosen feedstock is first collected and then processed to remove all the impurities to prepare it for conversion. And at the second stage, the conversion stage, there the feedstock is converted into a synthetic crude oil, which is also called sometimes as synthetic kerosene, through various processes. And next step includes refining that the same material. So the synthetic crude oil is then refined using similar processes and then converted into SAF, and at the last stage it is blended properly with conventional jet fuel. And at the end, it has to get the approval from American Society for Testing Materials and Testing and Materials, which is ASTM D7566. So that is the standard for the same. Also, it has outstanding cold weather performance. It has a freezing point of minus 47 degrees Celsius. Yeah, so this is very feasible for all the air conditions and globally. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So the next area of I would say incorporating sustainability and generating profit at the same time is switching to renewable energy. Now, from the businessman's perspective, from the airport authorities' perspective, so what is the first question that comes to their mind? The first thing is, what are some of the benefits of renewable energy for my airport? Because switching to greener energy, even though there's a lot of discussions regarding net zero practices and how India is targeting to get net zero by 2070, and all that. And most of the companies across all industries, especially the Fortune listed companies, they're targeting to get net zero by 2030. Now, the big question is that why should I change my traditional, my age-old, my years-old system into something completely new that would require a lot of effort, lot of investment and manpower as well, and which I have to continue later on, and the maintenance and supervising the whole thing would come along with it. So the main advantages of it is it produces fewer life cycle emissions than fossil fuel resources, right? And it can also supplement the purchase of non-renewable energy. So there are multiple benefits of using renewable energy, of switching to renewable energy, and creating greener transport opportunities overall. So it has the potential to revenue generation at the same time, as well as maintaining, as well as creating less effect on the environment, maintaining better air quality. And this would also at the same time fetch competitive advantage over all the other companies, all the other airports, or let's say aviation companies that are there for each of these companies. So it will be a high competitive advantage for all these airports. So now AAI, Airport Authority of India, they have, sort of roughly sketched that they should, all the airports should adopt renewable energy. At least some percentages of their operation should be renewable by 2025. But as of now, 25 airports are currently using 100% green energy, and 121 airports are still about to, adopt more such practices in future. Now, India has 4 airports that are ACI level +4 carbon accreditation they have got, and those airports are Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore respectively. Now, if you talk about, like, I have gathered some examples of different airports who have taken really, remarkable initiatives when it comes to sustainability. Now, one more point to consider here is that this practice has already started. It is not that it is very new in the aviation sector, or people are, just following trends blindly, even if that is not aligning with their business practices or their long-term objective or agenda, whatever. It has started long back. But what is the best part of it is that the airports are transforming into greener business, and the whole traditional approach is it is gradually changing, right? So the next example is the Cochin International Airport, which has a public-private partnership model, and they have scripted another in aviation. They have created history by being the first airport in the world that operates completely on solar power. And one of the most effective ways to energy consumption for airports is that creating nearby or on-site, power generation. So multiple airports are adopting that, and they have set a target also. Also, if you study the sustainability reports, or let's say the BRSR reports of all these airports, you will get to notice like how the data has changed from the past 5 years or past 3 years to till now, because in their BRSR reports also they are supposed to mention that number. So for example, Adani airports produce say 10 megawatts or 5 megawatts of solar power, and they would have to mention their energy producing roadmap in future, and how far they have been able to achieve till date. That number has to be mentioned as well. So all these information are accurate, and I am really happy with the progress that all such companies have made, and how they have identified all the possible scopes of putting sustainability. So considering from from renewable energy to water consumption to waste management to water management and all the other nitty-gritties of the same. Next slide, please. Okay, so now energy conservation or reduced consumption. So this is a very important part, because even though you use renewable energy or your conventional energy, even if you don't cut down the consumption, and if you're not mindful about the conservation of it, then there is no point of doing the same, because otherwise it will not cut down your cost, and the cost will keep on increasing. So these airports have adopted really smart ways to cut down their cost, as well as reducing consumption and conserving energy at the same time. So I will talk about Mumbai Airport at first. So it has India's first and largest vertically integrated solar plant on site, And initially, their capacity was 1.06 megawatt, and they have increased the capacity to 4.6 megawatt at present. Now, talking about NIA, they are aiming to create a system where 55% of their energy consumption would be from renewable resources. And next is IGI Airport, which is Delhi Airport. They have 100% LED light in terminal and city side, and 100% LED in AGL system, which is airport ground lighting system. And they have energy savers in DX units and application of all the UV GI lamp in AHU for energy conservation. So apart from that, in the baggage handling system also, and the integrated cart system, and installing advanced high side chiller system, these are also helpful for reducing energy consumption. And at NIA also, they have a very unique approach, which is a very smart technology. It's like, one temperature that fits for all. Instead of going for that conventional approach, they have installed a system where it will be an adaptive cooling system. So for example, you are entering the terminal and one particular area is cooler than the other one, then that particular area which is cooler than the other one would automatically adopt the AC temperature will automatically adopt the slightly higher temperature than the area that requires more cooling. So in that way, they have designed the whole system, which I believe is a very smart practice, which is getting them profit at the same time. Next, I'll be talking about Hyderabad Airport. So they are now powered by 100% renewable energy. So that is again a very remarkable initiative. Bangalore Airport has also 100% energy consumption comes from their renewable resources. Also, the campus currently saves energy through implementation of technologies like LED lighting systems and the installation of electronic charging ports for electronic vehicles. And the lower amount of energy required for cooling or chiller plants or with high efficiency have been utilized, and this also helps in optimizing the whole system. So for example, Bangalore Airport has been able to save over 1.7 million kilowatt hour of energy, and that could light up 9,000 homes so for 1 month. So that is, I think, not only just cutting down their costs, but at the same time it is doing something, it is setting a benchmark for all the other airports at the same time. Next slide, please. Yeah, so next we have planning and designing. So I'm sorry for the wordy slide, but the main aspect the main agenda to cover this point is that how airports have started changing in appearance also. So instead of following the conventional design and architecture, airports are now trying to be, I would say, a point of attraction for all their passengers. So where passengers would like to stay at the airport for a longer time, maybe invest at the retailer shops a little more. So this would eventually generate more revenue, as well as this would cut down costs from the airport authorities end at the same time. So using features like double glass facade system, or a cooling system that is very sustainable in manner, or designing an airport, for example, Bangalore Airport, the new terminal, they has designed it, they has kept the theme as Garden City of Bangalore. So they are imitating that concept. So first of all, it is a green building. So all the new terminals that are coming up these days, including NIA, which is under construction currently, so they are getting green building certificates, and all those criterias are being followed for green building standards, and they are achieving the same. Also, Bangalore Airport has 3,600 plus plant species and 620 endemic plants and 150 palm species within the airport premises, which is part of their design. And the concept behind providing water to such plants is again very, very sustainable. So I'll come to that later when I'll talk about the water usage that is being managed. And Hyderabad Airport has also become India's first airport to induct a cloud-based central irrigation control system. So this is a very, very new technology, and what it does is it has cloud system which is connected to sensors at the field, and that would the message and optimize the irrigation system and schedule the irrigation accordingly. So for example, some day it has rained and the soil is already wet, So it will spend the correct amount of water at the already moist, at the already for the already wet soil, instead of using when it is using the same quantity of water when it is required when the soil is dry and the day is sunny, the weather is sunny. So that sort of a system has been adopted. So as we were discussing, the policy part or the governance or what the Indian government is doing, so I think there is no such policy that can stop us from doing something right, even though there is any particular trend or even though there is any particular global agenda or something. So if we want to switch to sustainability, if we want to adopt green practices, I think we should always be able to find out the ways and how to stay in profit at the same time. Next slide, please. Okay, so now talking about waste management. So waste management is again a very big part of airport operations. So previously this was a very big concern across all the airports, but now most of them are having on-site waste production processing system. So for example, Bangalore Airport, they have used plastic waste replacing 6% of bitumen to build roads within their airport premises. Also, they encourage their retailers to use baggies for packaging, which is made out of sugarcane pulp, and it is 100% biodegradable and composable as well. And coming to Mumbai Airport, they have a organic waste converter on site. And talking about NIA, they also have third-party vendors who are currently managing all their construction waste. Hyderabad Airport has also, the food waste from the airport is then converted into compost or black gold, whatever they call it, and that is again used for, for all the plants that are there within the airport premises. Next slide, please. Yeah, so my next area is water management. So talking about NIA, so they have already a STP plant in place, which to process water, and they are for the construction activity also they are using treated water, and no fresh water is being used for the construction work, and to manage dust and every other activities that can be associated with construction. Next, talking about Hyderabad Airport, they are into rainwater harvesting and several other water saving measures to contribute into water consumption. Now, they have also been awarded with Green Airports Recognition 2019 for their best rainwater and best water management from the ACI, Airports Council International. And talking about Bangalore Airport, so they have a very weather-based smart automatic irrigation system. So just like the previous one I have mentioned, so they have 100 acres of landscape, and the terminal washrooms have low water fixtures. And there is a smartphone app also that controls the first of its kind, weather-based smart automatic irrigation system. So these sort of, practices are being implemented. Also, a hydropneumatic pumps station and automatic filtration unit is there that saves 30% of water. So all these practices are, setting a benchmark when it comes to conserving the natural resources at the same time and how to sustain in the business. So I think when it comes to greener transport and operation, it is not about just following blindly the policies and the trends, but apart from that, I think a lot of research, a lot of brainstorming is there behind all such technologies, and that's how these airports are gradually setting a benchmark which can be an example for future practices. So for water filtration also, I think for the STP plants especially, UF and RO technologies are being used. So which is ultrafiltration, where all the solid particles and the dissolved particles, reverse osmosis process, where all the dissolved particles also can be separated at the same time from wastewater, and it can be now then converted into usable treated water, and that's how water is being saved from getting much wasted. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now talking about advanced technology, which is our way forward. So all these airports are now switching into very smart way of boarding passengers, and they are just trying to control the whole operation as a whole. So it is just not about people in business and sustainability enthusiasts like us. It is also about people on the ground who are managing the airport operations on a daily basis, right? So from their end also it is being managed very nicely. So if you talk about NIA, they have a paperless boarding system. They are going to use swift stands and multimodal ground system and swing stands also. And Bangalore airport also has contactless and paperless check-in and video analytics and AI platform, which would include 500 live cameras across Terminal 2. And the lastly, I have Mumbai Airport's example, who have touchless transition initiative, where passengers can simply, authenticate their boarding pass and just check in. Also, adopting such practices, which is truly remarkable, and they are aiming to get green building certification at the same time, and as well as get 1 gigawatt capacity data center by 2030. So considering all such examples and the initiatives that are in place currently, so I believe India's aviation future is going to be far better than what we have witnessed till date, and the business approach overall has changed throughout the years. So apart from which is feasible from the passengers end also, as well as from the businessmen's end, because when they show this to their shareholders or their stakeholders, they are going to get that competitive advantage. And for the passengers also, it is going to be a much smoother travel experience than before. So yeah, so talking about appearance to operations, I think it is incredible, and it feels really great to be a part of such discussions. And being a student of sustainability, I think we are also still learning and adopting things, just like the industry is evolving. So yeah, so thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your patience, and I hope I have been able to cover all the aspects that are there.
Thank you, Ismarika. You have covered it in very detailed way, and I have seen a remarkable change during the last 5 years when I have undertaken the audits of most of your airports in India. Some 20 to 25 on these airports were audited by me in 2020 and 21, and things have changed a lot since then. Now more and more these airports are opting for green building certification, LEED the certification, and they are adopting the renewable energy sources.
Correct, sir.
Okay, now moving forward, we are moving towards the last segment of this panel discussion, that's the shipping. Shipping has a major role in transportation because all your freight from the international your perspective, that is through the shipping only. And in the Gati Shakti project, Government of India is putting emphasis on the inland waterways. We have Mr. Sanjeev Saxena, who is very senior person and who has handled this shipping segment. He will apprise us about the latest changes in the shipping from the sustainability perspective. For example, India is a member of this International Maritime Organization 2050 Net Zero program. So what are the things that are going on in the marine sector and what are the need of the hours? I request Mr. Saxena to apprise us.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Azad. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and our esteemed panelists. Shipping, I will take it as a discussion that these are the small cities basically. These are small cities in terms of everything is to be generated independent of the any support from the cities. Number one. Number two, in shipping, we are the master, we are the owner. Nobody is looking at us. So when we used to sail on the ships, it is our behavior which will define how to bring in sustainability, how to ensure we are respecting the sustainability approach when nobody is looking at us. So as I have been through all the presentations, the shipping is contributing only 1% of the total pollution with all mode of transports. But I personally feel that this sustainability is a chain of all the initiatives through all the transport, be it waterways, railways, aviation, anything. And though shipping is the 1%, it's a small link in the entire chain. But if one link is weak, the entire chain will shatter. So we'll take through some of the slides. These are little technical, but I will try my best to simplify it as we progress on these slides. So my contents are energy standards, energy efficiency standard points. Next slide. As I shared that waterways contributes only 1%. It is very small, but we can't leave it behind. Next slide. So these are few efficiency standards are there. See, one is that proactive, one is the design stage. So it is always nice to design the product which is energy efficient. So in shipping, the ship strength has progressed right from maybe 200 ships in 1984-85, where Shipping Corporation of India used to have 150 ships, the largest fleet owner in 1980s and mid-90s. And later on, I think today it is more than 1,500 ships are all together, which are on the deep seas. So yes, the the technical upgradation in the ships manufacturing has tremendously taken up in last 40 years. I'm talking 84 when I say is almost around 40 years back. Design used to be there. So finally, the efficiency of any shipping has to start right from the design stage, which is called the naval architecture. From that point of view, the design of the ship, how to reduce the resistance. So just for example, the ships are basically 3 categories or 4 categories. One is the container, one is your oil containers, oil ships, and the passenger ships. So the ships are basically the length of the ships is around 350 meters. The height of the ships is around 35 to 40 meters, and 25 to 30 meter is the width of the ship. So if we look at this object from distance, it's a huge volume which it is carrying, and the huge volume in the sea it is displacing. So when the ships are loaded with the full load, it is just only about a meter above the sea level. So what is the ship is of 34 meter is under the sea. And look at this volume to travel by cutting the waterways, the water waves, and the water. It requires it has to face a lot of resistance. So we'll talk about here how to reduce the resistance, to increase the efficiency of the movement, and how to improve the efficiency to reduce the carbon emission through the chimneys of the ships. Let's move to another slide. So there are many efficiency standard points are there, like energy efficiency design index. As I said, it is to be taken up at the time of the design. Otherwise, you just keep on making the changes which does not impact a proper efficiency. Ship energy efficiency management plan, energy efficiency existing ship index, carbon intensity indicator, which is the measurement of carbon emitted from the chimneys. Electrification of the port equipment is very important, and green port guidelines are very important. Next slide, please. So I have also highlighted here. These are not. These slides has been taken from the excerpts of some material available at the Indian or international maritime organizations. But we thought to how to simplify it for the journal. Efficiency design index is a measure which is used for more energy efficient appliances. So in the ship, there are many appliances are there. It has got a boiler, it has got the engines, it has got pumps, it has got other machineries, it has got air conditioning. It is not a question of only we can increase the efficiency of the engine, the generators, unless I ensure that my each and every equipment on the ship has a higher efficiency operating mode, I will not be able to achieve the efficiency I'm expecting from the generators or the propelling engines. Solution is what? We have to reduce the electrical consumption on the ship itself. So if my fuel is not very efficient, but I have reduced the consumption on the ships, the actual consumption, power consumption of the ships, still I am contributing less emission, despite the fact my fuel is not very fuel efficient. Waste heat recovery is very important subject, which is basically should be adopted not only on the ships, it can be on the cities also, it can be on the ground also. So what happens in the waste heat recovery? When the the generators are running on in the cities, everybody would have seen there is a black smoke is coming from the chimney. We have to use this black smoke, which has got a temperature of around, say, I think 350 to 450 degrees centigrade, which is a very good temperature. This temperature to be tapped. My temperature at the chimney outlet, whether it is a ship chimney or it is the industrial chimney, it should not be less than 150 degrees centigrade. It should be above 150 degrees centigrade. So what's the delta T between the two? 350 of 150 and then minus 50. It means 300 to 200 degrees centigrade temperature is available to us, and we should recover this as a waste heat recovery. It can generate the hot water, number one. It can generate 100 ton, 600 kg of steam, which can run any small turbine, low capacity turbines, that should be used. Very important, I have seen when I used to sail on the ships, I have seen that, I mean, it just for everybody's information, if I say the HP, the horsepower of the engines, the ship which I defined that it is 350 meter long and 25 meter width and 35 meter depth. To run this ship against the deep sea requires an enormous quantity of the power. So main engine, which is propelling the ship, is 10,000 HP. We see the market, small Ds are 5 HP, 10 HP, 25 HP, 500 HP. It is 10,000 HP is the capacity of the propelling engine. And the shaft, which is connected with the propeller on the other side, which is outside the ship, the propeller dimension is 10 feet, 10 to 15 feet with the blades, which is, so this engine is running that one. So what happened, I mean, these ships were not manufactured in India. It was state of Tripura, bought in 1982, 83 from Japan. So Japan technology, I can say, is 20 years ahead of us. I was the first chief engineer to travel on the ship, the first ship which came out of Japan. So I traveled on that ship. The interesting part of that, I really appreciate their think tank, that the shaft of the main propeller engine is around, say, 1.5 feet, the dia. So this is the dia of the shaft, which is around, say, 20-30 meter from the engine, and it is connected with the propeller through some stuffing, the gland box, so that the water does not come inside. There was a generator on the shaft. So when the ships are under maneuvering on the port, there are 200 maneuvering are there, 200 to 300 to get out of the berth and to go to main sea. And then the ships run for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days on the same speed of 35 to 40 kilometers per hour, or miles per hour, nautical miles per hour, for 2 days, 3 days. So the speed is not changing. Their constant movement is there. So what happens? There is a shaft generator. So there is a generator on the shaft which used to generate 500 kilowatt units per hour. So that I really appreciated the Japanese technology, that this is called a true sustainable solution. With no input of the fuel, we are getting the power of 500 kilowatt. It's really remarkable. So this is I'll just go through one by one now. So this is a design index. So had somebody is not designed, nobody can put on the shaft. It's a Herculean task. Who will remove the shaft? Who will remove the propeller to put the shaft in generator in between? So this is a design index. Next slide, please. Now, ship energy efficient management plan. Basically, the objective of this plan is that to improve the ship energy efficiency by implementing measures to reduce the carbon emission. So basically, I will go through 6-7 slides on the efficiency, but the objective is common: how to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. That is the bottom line. Next slide, please. Energy efficiency existing ships index. Now, how to do it? Because we can't scrap the ships. It's a heavy investment. So we have to, the naval architecture department have to do some modification in the existing ships also, because you can't leave it. So, for example, if the new fleet is 10%, the old fleet is 20%. So we can't leave those 90%. We have to do the modification. Which are the modification? The power limitation is to be defined by the captain of the ship or the chief engineer of the ship. So, my gentlemen, you will not consume the power more than this. So you have to put the targets. It can't be a open end, luxury for everybody on the ships. The engineering department has to own the responsibility to limit the power consumption. Wind assistance is a new technology, but I do not know how to do it. It's just a thought came in my mind. When the ship is moving at 40 km per hour, nautical miles per hour, certainly there is a resistance of the air. Why can't we use the resistance of the air to run the wind turbines and get the generator on the either side of the ship? I mean, that's a balancing. It's a very high technology, but we thought, can we thought about it? Proper optimization is very important. So that is because your 80%, I was reading through some the brochures. In the ship, the total resistance is 80 to 90% the resistance of the propeller on the shaft. That's the reason we need such a high capacity, the engine to run to move the ship. Now, solution is what? Basically, I have been through many presentations, and lovely presentations are there. We have to move. The bottom line is that we have to move to green fuel. I don't know how to do it, but ship. When we talk about the ship, it is not a small 2-ton, 3-ton. The dead weight is 2.5 lakh tons. The dead weight of the ship. Huge. We have to think about storage of the battery. We have to think about the wind turbine. Maybe it is small, but it will give you 24/7 your power, because it will run 24/7. We can think about solar, system, solar panels. Be it small, doesn't matter. Let it be 50 kilowatt per hour, or let it be 100 kilowatt per day. But it is contributing. We have to contribute in reducing the carbon emission, even if it is 1%. That should be our thought. That should be our commitment to the entire human being, entire planet. Next slide, please. Carbon intensity indicator has to be defined, because unless we look at the previous data, how much fuel we consume, because there is no data as on date today to check on the chimney how much carbon has been emitted. We take it with the back calculations from the fossil fuel burnt. How much this fossil fuel has the carbon, we derive from that only. So we have to put a target, how much it used to be earlier, what action has been taken today to reduce this, and then we compare. So now there are 3 solutions out there. One is the speed optimization. Like in the car, we say that when you run the car at say 60 to 80, it gives you a very average, consumption. When it is more, we are increasing the speed, but certainly we are consuming more fuel also at the same time, which is not in proportionate to the distance covered. So speed optimization has to be there. Biofouling management is very important, because in the ship, whichever surface is under the water, will get algae, will get deposits, will get even corals. Because it is under the water. So algae, all these substances which is stuck to the surface, will cause 100% resistance. How to ensure that we avoid that? By using the latest technology paints, which does not allow, because there are many paints are available, which does not allow any fungi, any algae to stick. It is so smooth. Antifungal paints are available for the buildings. We should use those kind of paint to avoid the biofouling. Alternative fuel, CNG and green hydrogen, can be part of that. We can have a container in the ships, we store it, and we use it. Yes, nevertheless, the safety measures to be taken, because these are all very volatile. They are bombs on the ship itself. So we spoke about the efficiency now, benefit of the impact, CO2 emission, low air pollution from shipper, more innovative solutions more rapidly, more green employment opportunities. I mean, when we talk about the green, we have to give the employment. So this employment is not on the ship. This employment is basically on the port. The port and ships are integrated with each other. We can't make it separate. Cost saving and industrial growth. So we spoke on all these, points, how to propose the approach and action plan on this. So International Marine Organization, they have certification policies for all the whichever I have discussed over here. So basically, we have got a free hand today. Business as usual will keep on going till 2030. But certainly, there will be very stringent rule beyond 2030. There will be audits, and auditor will be very fair to give their estimations, their point of view, their feedback, whether ship should sail or not. So these are all the certifications which are organized by international maritime organizations, and the links are given for reference. Next slide, please. So government focus is also there. The ships are floating cities on the deep seas, and these are connected with the port because everything is managed by the ports only. So port is also a building, which is again small, I would say it's a small society which has got buildings, which has got moving vehicles, which has got cranes, which has got mooring benches, which has got everything. So when there is a human being, we require water, we require power, we require air conditioning, we require safety. So all these, government focus is that they want to take up few ports to make it more green, self-reliant, and sustainable. Because right now the power to the port is coming from where? From any of your generating stations, transmissions. Which are those stations? 70-60% is the national thermal power, which is causing a lot of poison, which is causing a lot of carbon and adding to the pollution, greenhouse gas effect. So basically, unless we cut that resource to utilize within the port, we won't be able to achieve our targets. So for that, I will just share, maybe next few slides, I will share my point of view with my 4 decades experience in various industries, what should be done that can be taken up with the government, which can be taken up to a group of intelligent, think tanks, and then we can proceed. Next slide, please. So these are my points based on my experience in various industries. Number 1 is that propelling engine, it operates on the heavy oil. Heavy oil is the 3rd or 4th category after the, what they call purification. Aviation oil is the first category, then your petrol is there, then diesel is there, then your kerosene. Heavy oil is such a thick oil, if it is not heated, it's like a paste. So we have to, number 1, we have to heat it. So all the, 5,000 liter tanks which are using this heavy oil, first we have to heat it. Look at the wastage of the energy to heat the oil to use. So we have to use some waste heat recovery to heat this oil to reduce the viscosity, to make it more thin, so that can be injected into the small cylinders of the engine. We must use gas engines, CNG, liquid natural gas, or compressed natural gas. We have to use this. This is out of many points which I will give the pointers. If we are able to replace the heavy oil with the CNG, with the PNG, gas cannot be there, CNG or liquid hydrogen. If we do that, I would say 1% contribution to the planet will be reduced by 90%. I'm saying 90%. It can be 100% also. Depends on the carbon contents into the fuel, which are flue gases, which are mostly very clean actually. Integration of the shaft generator. Now look at the technology, as I said earlier. Japan in 1984 had put the shaft generator on the engine. Remarkably, I would say. Waste heat recovery and cogeneration with CHP cycle for power generation. I will just simplify it. What is CHP? Combined heat power. So what happens? There's an engine of say 1 megawatt, 1000 kilowatt. We inject the gases the fuel gas. It gives you 1 megawatt 1000 units per hour. The exhaust of 450 degrees centigrade can be utilized in two ways, and that is applicable not on the ship. It is applicable on the port. Because on the port, I need the hot water for some reasons, or I need and of course I need the air conditioning. May not be hot water, but air conditioning. 1 megawatt engine can give 100 TR of air conditioning on the port. I can guarantee 100 TR is not the requirement of the air conditioning on any port. So there are only few buildings are there. So this, if I generate now 100 TR air conditioning, if we are not using 100 TR air conditioning, we can take 50 TR, and then less 50% can generate the hot water. Put a small turbine for your power. So that's the reason it is called co-generation with CHP cycle. It is very important. But unfortunately, in India, because of the pricing, it used to be very, very, popular. And I had put in 2-3 industries. I had put in 2003, 2004, when your PNG or CNG rate used to be 16, 17 rupees per kg. And the payback period used to be around, say, 5 to 6 years. So any investment on any energy efficiency conservation technique, if you are getting 5 years ROI, it's not very good, but good. But certainly 2 to 3 years is excellent actually. We should do that. I would say today's scenario, when we are talking about so much, so much pollution in India, in many metro cities, I would say if the payback period is even 10 years, we have started one step ahead, one step towards the cleaner environment. Wind generators on the right and left side of the mast. The mast is around, say, I would say it is 4 floor, so 12 to 15 meter. We have to balance it that is the design, but it's a thought. I mean, we can do that also. Underwater surfaces friction losses is very, very important. We should do that. There is a hull and there is a bottom. Always there is a round, some design is there to reduce to ensure that the water thrust is always on the top. So we have to work on that. Now, those who are with this industry, shipping industry, I will just, in general, I just simplify that. See, there's a shaft which is inside the ship, and there's a propeller which is outside the ship. So if I, make it permanently welded or with, I tight completely, the shaft will not rotate. So I have to put what? There is a stuffing box in technical language. In general language, we say there are the cord, the gland packings which are made of Teflon, something like this, and it is around, say, I would say about a 2 meter is the depth of that. So water leaks. First ring, then it is of second ring. So water leaks even inside, but it's few drops of water. It doesn't matter at all. So we have to. So what is the resistance now? There are two resistance. One is propeller is the resistance. Second is the stuffing box is the resistance, which is a very heavy resistance. So out of 100, I would say 30% resistance is the stuffing box, 70% resistance is the propeller. So 95% resistance is this. So I think technology are evolving slowly to reduce this. How to reduce the intersection of the water and the inner side of the ship, so that the resistance can be minimized. It can't be isolated. It can't be negated. It has to be minimized only. Another few pointers are there. Main cause of power consumption, 80% CO2 emission. Resistance of the wet surface is in between 70 to 90%, which I have already shared. Yeah, the third point is very important. And this is my personal experience when I was, young at 23 years old. I went to ship the first day of the ship. I had to open one valve. The dia of the what you call this, the wheel was about 1 meter, and I could open only 2 inches in 1 hour. So heavy. Why I was doing that? If I open the complete valve, the motor will burn. So the technology should be VFD, the variable frequency drives on high water drawing, and the engine cooling heat exchanger pumps. So I need not to, regulate is a waste of energy actually. My motor is taking 80% power, but I'm utilizing only 20% water flow. So 60% wasting. We have to use the VFDs, variable frequency drives, where let the valve be open 100%, the motor will run only at 20%, 30%. So if I put this system on any of the motor and system, I can guarantee 25 to 30% saving, net saving immediately the moment you switch on the VFDs. So these are few points are there. Now, as I said, the shipping is a self-reliant small city. Nobody gives you water. You have to generate water yourself. So we used to generate the water from where? We used to run the boiler, and the steam is going to, to heat the water, to evaporate that. The water is to be cooled by the sea water, and we used to get the very good quality distilled water, about say 1,000 liters per hour. Used to be the, so I used to run throughout the night to ensure that tomorrow morning I should have water for the entire fleet over there. We should use desalination at high vacuum. Where I'm not using steam. I am working at a very high vacuum, a very low temperature. Though production will be less, but what is stopping us? You have got days and night. Run that one. Scrubbers to tap the carbon, very important. So whatever we must put the scrubbers, it can be dry scrubbers, it can be wet scrubbers to arrest all the particulate matters, whether we are on the ship or we are on the city. Our conscience should not allow to discharge any particulate matter which is more than PM 2.5. So that's very important. Number one. Number two, it reduces the acidic gases. SO2 will convert into sulfur dioxide, S2SO4. Carbon dioxide will convert into CO3, carbonic acid, and nitric acid. So it will be dissolved into that one. Now what to do? Sustainability, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, is a process. You attempt to control one, there's another seeding will happen to control the another stream of that. So finally, what is happening? I have got water in this curve which is very highly acidic, which is very highly contaminated with the carbon particulates. Now we have to how to ensure that it is not thrown in the shape in the deep sea, because nobody is looking at me. There's no CCTV culture on the ships outside. But who is looking after us? Who is looking at me? Me. Nature is looking at me. I should not do anything which is against the nature. So what I should do, this water should be dried so that again the vapors are out, everything will get solidified, and we should run it into we should burn it into the incinerators. Incinerator is an equipment where we are putting a fuel and everything is injected into that one. Carbon get burnt, unburnt carbon, because the carbon in the engine's chimney is a semi-burnt carbon. You have to burn it. When it will generate heat, we should run again a small boiler. A small generator can be attached to that one. These are expensive. I would say sustainability comes with the cost. It is not so easy. It is not so cheap, but we have no option. It is cheaper than what it is happening today.
Then, sir, may I interrupt you? Please just conclude your now.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Just in the interest of time, because we are getting
last
questions also.
Okay. So whatever I have said till now, we have to implement this on the port and jetties. And once ships are having the sustainable solutions, jetties are having sustainable solution, we will certainly achieve our targets. So ladies and gentlemen, everybody is doing, and we have got a very good, thought. My thought on this is to reduce the emission while we are not on ground. We are on deep seas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And you kick your questions to Mr. Saxena. If you are comfortable, you can chat. You can type in the chat box. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself and ask directly. We have not got any questions so far. And now I request Ms. Shikha to propose the vote of thanks and you conclude the webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir. So now this brings us to the end of our panel discussion on sustainable transportation in India. We thank our respective moderator, Dr. C.S. Azad. I am a esteemed panelist and also a participant for attending this session. So thank you.